To the North Rose-Wolcott Central School Board of Education meeting. We will begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Motion, please. Linda and Travis. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We're trying a new agenda schedule here. We, of course, are meeting at 5 o'clock, and we're going to, first of all, take a break to do an executive session, and then we'll be back at 5:30. In the past, we've been doing this in the middle of a meeting, and it seemed inconsiderate to have all of you sitting out here in the middle of a meeting while we have to go into an executive session. So we thought we'll try doing our executive session first. People will begin to plan on that and perhaps not, shall I say, bother coming at 5 o'clock knowing that the business is going to transpire at 5:30. So that's why the agenda is as it is tonight. So I'd like, please, a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of specific employees. A motion, please, Tina and Leslie. Any discussion? All in favor of moving into executive session? Thank you. Motion is carried. We will return at 5:30 and be ready to do business. We are back in public session, and we are now at number 3 on your agenda, presentations, and I will leave that, please, Mr. Pullen, to make those introductions.
Sure, thank you, Mrs. Collier. So Mrs. Pagliatti is actually going to give the Board of Education the professional development plan. So each year the board has to approve it, and we send our plan in the State Education Department for review. A lot of what you're going to see is very intentional. So when I started in the district 6 years ago, I explained to Megan, we need to stop having the fruit of a month approach to professional development. And when we set up our calendar really needs to mimic much of our business operations, and we follow an 18-month process. So a lot of what you're going to see is a continuation of things that we've started in the past. We're constantly scrutinizing our programs to make sure they're effective, but there's going to be a lot of familiar terms, a lot of familiar names to you, and she's going to kind of go over the overview of our PD plan for your approval tonight. I would just ask that she's allowed to go through the program and then ask any questions you might have at the end so that she can keep her flow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to start by looking at the state requirement. This is the PD plan that's presented to you every year. There's required components in it that the state mandates that we have, and then we'll be going into some that are more specific to what we do that really we kind of use more internally to guide our work. So the table of contents just shows some of the required parts that we do need to have in the plan, and we were excited to put our new strategic action plan in there with our new mission and vision, with an explanation of each of the areas of that. We put our state test scores that we have from the previous year, and then the region scores that we're taking in January and June. And then the group of people who develop this each year are the members of the Leadership Council. So that's really our district instructional team. We do it in May before the year ends, so we have it ready so we can get their input before everybody goes away for the summer, because it includes the school leadership teams, which are consisting of teachers, and then all the administrators in the district. So there's quite a few of us that work on this each year. And then there's just required components that we have to have in here. There's a piece for professional development with the PD standards, and making sure that we're providing that development that will improve student academics, social, emotional, and behavior. So the things that Mr. Pullen was talking about that you've heard about is diving into the restorative training, iReady, MTSS, and the data dashboard. And then this year, really looking into the components of Portrait of a Graduate, because that's something that's going to have to be rolled out. It's a lot of information, so we're thinking that we'll be doing that monthly, because there's too much to kind of do it all at once. We also have a goal for English language learner parents and communicating with them. This aligns to our goal for our school comprehensive improvement plan at the middle school. So we're always looking for ways to engage our parents of speakers of other languages, and we have a goal around that and the professional development that our teachers will receive in order to understand how to best meet the needs of learners of other languages. We have safety plans in here. So any of you that's worked in a school, you know that we have to do the right to know and the bloodborne pathogens every year. And then there's DASA training, the Dignity for All Students Act training. And so some of just those, again, required pieces, workplace violence prevention, mandated reporter, all those things that we need to make sure that our staff are trained in. And then we do have a mentoring program for our new teachers, and new teachers who come, whether it's their first time teaching ever, or maybe they've taught for 15 years in another district and they came here. All of our teachers that are here for the first year get a mentor. It just really helps ground them and connect them to someone either in their building or in their content area or grade level that's kind of like their person, that they can really learn those hidden rules of the area, the culture from, and trying to find even where, like, calendar invites and how do I know what meetings to go to, all those logistical things that having that person to go to just really helps to get people acclimated. when they start here. Again, teachers have to participate in so much professional learning, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And again, there's the ELL piece. So those are pretty much the required components of what we have to do for the state. So as far as how our professional development teachers access that, we do have Frontline, and this is something that every teacher has a login to. And what they can do is they can log into here, and it will take them to catalogs. And so there's catalogs from Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES, Monroe 1, Monroe 2, and then we have our own district catalog. So anything that we see that teachers need professional development in, we can create that, and then we can put it in here, date, time, and location, what it's about. Teachers go right in here and they sign up for it. So we see how many people are planning to attend. And then once they attend it, it also keeps track of how many hours of PD they've done, because they have to keep track of that for New York State. So it's really nice. A really nice program that kind of keeps everything organized for professional development. There also is, if there's, a PD that someone wants to take that maybe is more tailored to, let's say, instrumental music, and there's not something in here for that, there's another process they can use to ask for those specialized things that don't necessarily show up through BOCES or in any of the catalogs. So this is our curriculum articulation guide. It's very colorful. This is something that we have been doing so we can look at where we are now and where we're going to go for the next 5 years with our curriculum. It's a little bit different than what we've done in the past. In the past, we kind of had just talked about like what areas we were going to focus on, but pretty much everybody now has the curriculum. We did a big push. Everybody has their curriculum in Atlas. So now it's on a cycle of them either, implementing it, refining it, analyzing it, or developing it. There's some that are going to be developing as we work through our new math programs, figuring out how those align. So this is something that all the teachers have, and they'll see, okay, this year 25-26, this is where I am, and they can kind of plot out what the work they'll be doing within the next 5 years. And again, this is created with Leadership Council as well. And then this is the professional development plan that we use. This is still under construction because we're working on our school improvement plans to align to our strategic action plan. But it's organized in a way that there's ongoing PDs that happen in each building, and there's district-wide pieces that are ongoing. And then it breaks down into each of the months, different things that are offered at each building or at the district level. So there's a lot of pieces there. You can see, like I said, we're going to be adding, hopefully taking away some because there's a lot for some of the months once we get it narrowed down. But for the next 18 months, we can make sure that the things that are a priority are focused on. You'll see there's some things in purple. Those are outside providers that are going to be coming in to work with us for an area of their expertise. And, as we look at this and add to it, there are priorities on the bottom that came out from the school leadership teams and the district team of the things we need to make sure that we're not letting, slip by without providing some training on these things. And then finally, again, just our professional development providers. We're really lucky to be able to partner with multiple BOCES. The RSE Task is a group that works specifically with us for our English language learner trainings and students with disabilities. Our instructional coaches are really great about, being in the classrooms, working with teachers, and seeing what teachers need and actually creating professional development to meet those specific needs. The administrators as well, they've been really vital in our professional development days at providing professional development. And next week at our new teacher orientation, there's many of them coming to present to the new teachers on specific areas. And then, like I mentioned, there's other conference requests that can come in upon approval. So this is a little sneak peek. the state changed the teacher evaluation system. It's 3020E now. And we have until 2032 to implement this. However, the teachers and administrators all agreed we wanted to work on it quickly, make a change as soon as we could, making sure it was thorough. So throughout all last school year, we met the teachers union and some administrators to make a STEPS team, which used to be APPR. And there is a component in the STEPS plan where every teacher has to have a professional learning plan. So what we did is we built that right into our evaluation system, where teachers will be having a goal setting meeting at the beginning of the year with their administrator. And then throughout the year, they'll be measuring, seeing how they're working towards their goals. And then at the end, they'll be doing a reflection on how they met their goals. This is a piece that'll be tailored specifically to them, and the goals will be set. They'll come with what they think they need to focus on or what they want to focus on, and then we'll be set together if the administrator has some suggestions too. So we're waiting until NICEAD approves it to say this is a piece, but this is like one half of the teacher evaluation system. The other half is still classroom visits. But I think this is going to be really useful to teachers and for us to help make that personal growth rather than the old like student learning objectives where we had to try to figure out all the data to go into a formula to do the teacher evaluation system. So we're all pretty excited about that. Any questions?
Megan, this is a nice, what you presented is a nice all-in-one package. Do the teachers all get a copy of that as well?
So they do get a copy of the like 18-month. The professional learning plan that we provided the state, we have not provided it to them. We could. It's just, it doesn't feel very usable to us, but it is something that we could provide them.
Well, I
Yeah.
just wondered if they're sometimes it's nice to see where you're going or where the whole district is going.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Anyone? Travis?
Yeah, it was very interesting learning about the mentoring program. It's got to be really helpful for our first year teachers to be able to connect with somebody and learn the ins and outs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to see that the restorative practices, you're still continuing to do that
Yeah.
because that definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
Going through it last year,
Yeah.
I know that that really helped with the referrals and everything.
Mhm.
Numbers looked great last year, so let's keep it up.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone else? Linda?
I just wondered, when you were going over some of the resources for them for professional development, was some of them online things that they could do?
Yeah, so in that front line, there are pieces that, you go and attend a conference traditionally. There's also online options where you are, sitting at your screen and someone is teaching to you. There's also asynchronous options where you log in and you go through a bunch of, different experiences, activities, you have to interact with it. And then at the end, you typically fill out like what you learned from it or a Google form of like what help you need further. And so there's all different ways that teachers can access it.
Gives them more flexibility.
Yes.
I know, Megan, earlier or last year, you had mentioned that teachers were now going and visiting other schools, visiting other classrooms. Is that still part of this too?
It is, yes, especially for math. We focused in on math with our scores not being where we want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we visit some other schools to see what programs they're using, how it aligns to the math practices and the standards. And people found that to be very, very beneficial. So it's something we want to continue. And even within our own building.
Well, and I know they visited us as well in some of our programs. So
Yes.
that you learn from that too.
Yeah, build some partnerships.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're at number 4 on your agenda, board committee appointments. The elementary liaison, that's who? Oh, we haven't appointed those yet, have we? All right, that's later. We'll skip those. Oh, you want me to do that now? All right, well, I put it on my agenda in another spot, so one moment. Going to pass those around. Oh, maybe there's not enough there. Here's the rest of them. All right, this sheet is of the board appointments for the year. Some of you did made some requests. Some of you I shifted around to give you some experience with another area, always leaving someone, at least one person with experience on a committee. For this coming year, Travis, you are chairman of the audit committee, along with John and the new person who would be appointed. The handbook committee, Linda, you would take charge of that. And Leslie and myself would be on that committee. Negotiations, John, I put you as chair of that along with Tina and myself, Tina Reed. Leslie, I made you chairman of policy along with Tina and the new person. And we decided we would add a board communication committee this year, and Tina Reed, you'll be chairman of that committee, along with Linda Egner and Travis. Okay? Under the liaisons to the buildings, I thought the elementary would be a good place for a new person. Leslie, I thought perhaps you'd like to see what's going on in the middle school this year and bring that back to us. And Travis, you at the high school. And John, you had expressed interest in Cougar Ops, and so you're the liaison to Cougar Ops. Travis, I left you on district safety. You requested that, and I think it's good, particularly there, to get your feet underneath you, and because that's a huge document. And Linda, we're grateful that you're willing to continue with the 4 county responsibilities for the board, representing us on the board of directors and also on the 4 county legislative committee. So thank you for that. I did not put an alternate down for that this year. If any of you are interested in being an alternate for for Linda, she's usually there, but occasionally she can't make one of those meetings. The board of directors is usually prior to a membership meeting, dinner meeting. And the legislative committee usually meets on Saturdays through Zoom. Would that be correct? So if you have an interest in getting involved there, let me know. Everybody happy? I hope so. All right, good. So those are the committees for this year. Thank you. It goes through. This takes us now to public access. Are there any people who would like to speak? Oh, we do have a couple. Good. Prior to anyone speaking to our board, I know you have received from the back table the policy that is to be followed, but I do also do a short reminder. Public participation is a time that the board has set aside to hear from residents of the district to express viewpoints related to the district. Bylaws 1510, regular board meetings and rules and public participation, establishes the rules for public access, and if you've signed up to speak, it is expected that you have read the policy and are committing to adhering to it. I remind you that the board does not hear personal complaints against any persons connected to the school district in public session, nor are there any forms of prejudice, obscene language, libelous statements, or threats of violence tolerated. Public access is a time for us to hear what residents have to say, but members will not respond in any way. Speakers are each allowed 3 minutes and need to come to a conclusion when advised that the 3 minutes have ended. We set aside 30 minutes for this public access time out of our agenda. The first person who's asked to speak is Bridget Grinnell on merging football with Clyde Savannah. Bridget?
Hi, my name's Bridget Grinnell. Thank you for discussing merged sports tonight. With the information given back at the February board meeting, myself and others in our community are wondering where you are in the process. As of right now, we still have time to give kids the opportunity to be involved for this fall season. Just in the last 5 years, North Rose-Wolcott has had 31 students that have participated in the Clyde Savannah Junior Eagles football program, run by co-presidents Lynn Carnevale and John Gill, who's here tonight, and assistant president, our very own Bob Patarelli, who is also here tonight. In 2021, there were 9 students that were given the opportunity to play, with 2 students that aged out that year. In 2022, there were 15 students that had the opportunity to play, with 5 students aging out. In 2023, there were 14 students that had the opportunity to play, with 3 students aging out. In 2024, there were 12 kids that had the opportunity to play, with none that aged out that year. This year, in 2025, we have 12 kids that are currently registered on the Clyde Savannah Junior Eagles team, with 1 that will age out the end of this season. It is currently proven that every district that merges is successful. Why is North Rose-Wolcott not giving our students this opportunity? We are one of 2 districts in our county that do not offer some sort of football program. One of our many neighboring districts has successfully merged with other districts in our county. SOTUS Athletic Director, Mr. Michael Megan, says that the benefit of merging are that it allows their district, SOTUS, to have or help students provide enough players to support a team. Without a merger, students would not have the opportunity to play. The only negative comment he had to say was that they have some transportation problems. SOTUS merges with 5 different districts for 6 different sports. One of those districts being North Rose-Wolcott. They merge girls tennis with Williamson, girls swimming with Williamson, football with Lions, girls flag football with Williamson, wrestling with Williamson, ski team with Marion, Wayne, and North Rose-Wolcott. Sports encourage students to remain academically eligible. Please explain to us all why these boys and many others, some of which are actively playing at other locations because they have aged out of other programs, can't continue to have the opportunity to play in our district. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. And the second person who'd like to speak to the board tonight is Bob Patarelli, and he'd like to speak on football as well. Are you timing?
Tinez. Don't forget to
Yes, I'm Bob Pettarelli, and I'm on the executive board of the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame. And I want to bring this program to you to let you see how many graduating seniors that we acknowledge and give them scholarship money for going to college. And it's an awesome thing to be on their resume for college. And me being a resident of North Rose-Wolcott, myself personally, I'm on that executive board. I would love to see North Rose-Wolcott honored also through the scholarship program that we offer. And I think it would be great. And myself personally, of all the years I've been involved since 2002 on this executive board. I've never seen anyone from North Rose-Wolcott. I've seen many people. When you look through there, you'll see almost Monroe County, all the counties, Cayuga County, like that we honor, we do a big banquet for them. Their names are inscribed at the College Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. And we also have, on one of the pages, you'll see that we have also a plaque at the Rochester Airport with all their scholars on it also. Anybody that we honor. And we also honored B players, B football players, cheerleaders. We honor football players, and we honor coaches, athletic directors, football coaches, officials, all of them. Anybody affiliated with the program. I'm also affiliated with Clyde Savannah's athletic director. I work out for the youth program for night games for Clyde Savannah's youth. And that's something a lot of kids don't ever get to see is a night game, and that's one thing I could say about Clyde Savannah. They take care of their kids, and it's an awesome program. And talk about our youth program. We started out with only 6 football teams. We now have 20. We're a lot bigger. We're getting bigger than Pop Warner now. We go as far as Casanova, Tully, Syracuse, Jordan Albers. Port Byron just joined us this year. We go as far as HFL in East Rochester and as far as Penn Yan. So hopefully North Rose-Wolcott will come on board with the Clyde Savannah organization so we can honor some of our own kids from this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That completes public access. At this time, we come to the consent agenda. A motion, please, to approve the consent agenda. Leslie and John. Any discussion? The consent agenda goes all the way through page 10. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Motion is carried. Now, if you'll move to page 10. We come now to the board member requests, comments, and discussion time. Several things are listed there, as you can see. And I will turn the first 2 over to Mr. Pullen, the Student Board of Education representative.
So thank you, Mrs. Collier. So I just want to start off by going through, this year we're asked by the state to have student board representatives. So we actually have 2, Lily and Marcus. They're both entering into their senior year. We'll get to know them on a formal basis in September. They'll start their responsibilities with us. We've actually invited both of them to the new teacher orientation meet and greet with the Board of Education on the 21st of August. I'm not sure if they can make it due to other commitments, but we want to start engaging them in the process of acclimating with the board members and then also new teachers in our community. We attended a 4-county school board association training on Monday night as part of the Wayne Finger Lakes group. There were 20 school districts and BOCES represented, so 19 school districts and BOCES. It was a very good training. It was really focused on meaningful involvement and student voice for school matters, and it really started to talk about the process. What was nice to see is that our students, our 2 representatives were both there. They acclimated well, and that it's going to be an ongoing, continued PD for our 2 student reps. In talking with both Marcus and Lily, I think the pride that they have for our school district and the ability to represent the student body is something that they're both looking forward to. They both also have expressed interest in how this is going to help with public speaking, how it's going to help with problem solving. So I really do see the benefits of that. The reason why we have 2 representatives is because we have a primary and an alternate. Both of our student reps are very active with sports, music, band, the choral thing, and then working part-time jobs. So we want to make sure that they have a work-life balance with respect to their volunteer role, and it really is something we're looking forward to. Then throughout the course of the school year, 4 counties actually going to do a number of different virtual trainings as well. So representing the board, representing a range of constituents, developing self-awareness, and communicating as student leader are just some of the topics that are going on. So I'm looking forward to working with the 2 of them and listening to the pieces of perspective that they bring. I also want to say to the Board of Education, we intend to fully commit to our student voice as well. We're going to continue our practice of having a student speaker each month. So I know that the board loves engaging with elementary, middle school, and high school students, and that's going to continue because they're going to bring a little bit different perspective each time. Questions or comments on that?
No, I just think it should be noted that with the student representatives now on the board as members here to be part of it, although they're not voting members. This is also one of the reasons our meeting was moved to the 5 o'clock time, because by 5:30, when we begin business, those who have had sports practices should be available, and hopefully they will be able to get to any 6 o'clock concerts or things that go on in at school, or if they have evening games that they can get to them. So that accommodation was part of the reason for changing the time. Just clarification.
Sure, thank you. So next we're going to move on to combined teams. So I know the board gave me a charge in July to bring this matter forward. It was mentioned earlier that there was a presentation to the board by community members back in February. Once we got through the budget season and graduation, the board asked me to bring up this topic of combined teams and speak specifically to football tonight. So as you know, each year we're addressed with a number of combined team offers. Specific to anything ranging from basketball, ranging from soccer, football, wrestling, swimming, you name it, that happens. Mr. Blankenberg is often the first step in that process. So tonight I want to talk a little bit more about formal versus informal requests, process and timeline, current requests, and then the intermunicipal agreement. And that last piece I'm going to draw your attention to is a legally binding agreement that actually has to happen for this to take off. So these 2 processes, if you were to look at the columns in front of you on the left and the right, these 2 processes have to happen concurrently, right? You can't have one without the other, which is you're going to make a request to the league and a request to Section 5. You're also going to have 2 boards of education, 2 superintendents, 2 athletic directors that have to work concurrently while those requests go out, if that's something that the districts and community are interested in. The second piece there on the right-hand side is the intermunicipal agreement, which I just mentioned. We're going to get into that a little bit more further into the presentation. So to break these out and focus on the left-hand side of the process, this is the formality, right? So if Mark gets a phone call, someone says we need to start lacrosse, that's informal. If Mark gets an email, that's informal. The formality comes through the process of we have a need, someone else has a need, we work on resolving that need together if the board sees fit. One of your responsibilities, fiduciary, right? You have to see, does it make sense? Is it something that's sustainable? So while that request goes into the formal process, Mark and his respective counterpart in any district that we would merge with would have to go through this process here, which is the request to the league and to Section 5. This is on the Section 5 website. This absolutely is a first step. Questions? Okay. So as you can see, when you go through a combined team application, it's pretty spelled out, right? Step by step as to what you'd have to do. You have to ask yourself and answer, is this for the fall, the winter, or the spring? What level are we actually asking the combined team for? Modified, JV, or varsity? Which gender? Is it male, female, or is it a combined team with respect to the gender? Then you identify the sport, the host team, the host league, and then whether this is a new request or if it's a request that's been made in the past. Okay?
I do have one question. So who fills this out? Like,
Mark.
Mark starts
Yep,
this?
athletic director would.
Okay. And
Yep.
then when does he start that? Like, what does he
Is-
need before he starts something like
He
this?
would need to know from the board that there's an interest there, because I would be the board's liaison. I am your employee. If you said there's an interest here and there's a need, and you told me to do that, then we would do that. Mark wouldn't start that formal process until I tell him start the formal process.
Okay.
So in the past, the number of informal requests that go to him could be AD to AD, could be community member, could be any of that. That's not enough to warrant the formal process starting. That's a good question, so thank you. But Mark would fill that out, and then the respective AD on the other side would have to co-author it, right? So it would be something that would be put in front of the league and Section 5 at the same time. Once they do that, this information here, which is the enrollment and then the classification, gets teased out. So Mark can speak to you about the enrollment and what the classification would look like. There have been changes over the years. Used to be you take both school populations, merge them together. Two Class C schools, you look at their number, they might bump up to Class B. Now it's based on a percentage. Quite honestly, I don't know that as fluidly as he does, but that's something, if as we go through this you still have that question, he's here to speak to that a little bit tonight. This is where it calls out. Then the discussion from the league is it approved or is it denied? And then there's the timestamp. So this is also important, right? So as we look at those enrollments, if they exceed the smallest classified school in that section, and it's bigger, then it's going to bump them up, correct? So that's also something for us to consider. So when they go through it and it's put in front of the group to decide on whether to approve it or not, the rationale is simple. Is it to help an existing program? Is it to help a program that's in danger of being dropped, or is it to help provide opportunities for athletes whose schools do not offer a program? And are there financial considerations associated with this request? I don't even know why no is up there as an option, because no matter what you do, there is always a financial consideration. It may not be right there with respect to saying yes or no, but there is nothing that we do in school that doesn't have a financial consideration. Okay, I just don't promise anything for free. So here's the rationale, go through all that stuff. Okay, that's the one part. While he's going through that, we also have simultaneously on his side of the house, the left side of the previous screen, you have to have this form filled out as well, right? This basically says, and I don't know, that's not the greatest view. Let me see if I can get, oh, let me go back, we're there. So you're going to actually have the CSO, so the chief school officer and athletic director for both school district, the host and the combined team sign off on that. This goes into section 5. It's a document. So while that all happens, the next step in the process for formality is the Board of Education. Both boards of education have to agree to this being something. Both boards of education have to have a resolution acted on in an open board meeting saying, we agree, we're going to combine for whatever sport it is. Tonight we'll use football as the example. So the district here, North Rose-Wolcott, and any host district, whether it was Clyde, Savannah, Lyons, or Wayne, which are the 3 closest to us that offer football, would be, and actually I guess we could use Lyons as well, would have to have something formally approved by their Board of Education as well. And then the last one, which is often overlooked, is the intermunicipal agreement, which basically says there's 2 districts that are entering into a financial decision. We both have skin in the game. So I'm going to talk to you about that, and then I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of that. But the board for both districts would have to agree to that intermunicipal agreement as well. So that both, again, through resolution and board action. So what an intermunicipal agreement is, it's spelled out for a variety of things. If we host a student for tutoring, we have an intermunicipal agreement with other districts because we're taking taxpayer funded programs and we're servicing someone outside of our community. In this particular case with football, the objective would be to resolve a combined team. We would spell out the fiscal responsibilities, right? I think I've spoken with you in the past that there is a cost associated with this. You know, for example, some of the merged teams may say it's $1,000 per player in order for us to consider it. Other schools have done a flat fee. I've seen it as high as $30,000 with annual re-up, right? So it's $30,000 a year. And that covers the cost of uniforms, equipment, supervisory staff. There has to be a term of the agreement spelled out in the intermunicipal agreement. Is it a 1-year agreement? Is it a 2-year agreement? Is it a 3-year agreement? Also, it has to be called out with respect to transportation. Who's responsible for getting student athletes to and from practice? Who's responsible for getting student athletes to and from games and competitions? Okay? You also want to account for cancellations. There are times where we have school and other districts do not. There are times where games are canceled, everything like that. What's the notification system? What's the process? How do you announce that? What's the combined team name? Okay? A lot of times that's something that, you know, old rivalries and things that go years and years back, people have a hard time letting go of things that they've been passionate about because of school spirit. Intermunicipal agreement will spell that out. Again, very formal. You also have to have your code of conduct, you know, agreed to. Do we follow our code of conduct? Does the host district follow their code of conduct? Do you work on a combined code of conduct for these teams to participate? What's the rules around athletic eligibility? All of that specified. Who hires the coaches? Which district do they work for? What's the salary? Which collective bargaining agreement do you follow when it comes down to that? That is also something that's, I would say to you, is legally, you have to follow that because that tends to be one of those things when it's collectively bargained, people want to make sure you're not taking unit member work away from one district or another. They also want to specify the process for volunteers. Any modifications to the intermunicipal agreement has to be agreed upon and formalized through an amendment through both boards of education. And then you also have to set up a program and MOA review. Earlier I said it could be a 1-year agreement, could be a 2-year agreement, could be a 3-year agreement. Regardless of what that agreement is, you have to have benchmarks in that agreement that say, after 6 months, we're going to evaluate this and determine how we move forward. It's a legally binding document. You have to comply with it. And then there has to be an indemnity piece in there for people following the agreement, just like we do with all legal matters. You also want to specify certain amount of insurance, right? Is it $1 million policy? Is it a $3 million policy? What is it that you have? You also want to make sure, with respect to getting out of the agreement, that there's a severability clause in there that says, okay, if I'm committing to $30,000 a year for 5 years, but after 1, I don't have enough people, I don't want to be on the hook for the next 4 years to pay $30,000 a year, okay? So you want to spell out the length of the agreement. The non-assignment really is, I've been told, is more legalese, and then you want to talk about what the process is for a waiver or a breach of that intermunicipal agreement. And then lastly, as I said at the beginning, you have to have a board process to approve the intermunicipal agreement. So when we talk about steps and we talk about process and we talk about offerings, the one piece that I think is important for this portion of our discussion is to say last year we had to cut $665,000 out of our budget. We didn't start new programs here for this upcoming school year. That's the first and foremost consideration that the board needs to have. I think the other part that we have to think about is when I was hired in 2020, the one clear thing that you made to me was any program that we have and any program that we start needs to be sustainable. Seems like every year when we go through our budget hearing, that's one of the first things that you talked about. The other part is, from an objective standpoint, I love to have student opportunities. I love to have participation in a variety of ways. However, from an organization standpoint, I have to be objective. I have to make sure that our dollars and cents are accounted for. I've heard for the past 13 months from the Deputy Commissioner of Education that things are going to get tight. He said it again in July. He said it's going to be a not so fun year. I don't know if you paid attention to the news media the last few days, but some of the stuff that they're really trying to highlight in news, or in some cases propaganda, is that there will be a cut to services. You're starting to see it in Medicaid, you're starting to see it in education, and essentially what we've been prepped for the first time in several years is mid-year cuts. That happened under Governor Patterson. Throughout last year's budget season, you heard me say, I am prepping for mid-year cuts, and I have to offer you a program in-house that is sustainable, fiscally sound, and responsible. We do not offer free programs. We just can't. There is a gift of taxpayer funds that comes into play when that happens. And even if we went somewhere and they said, this year you can use our equipment, you can use our jerseys, you can use our field, at the end of the year, there are taxpayers that would have to pay for reconditioning of football helmets, reconditioning of shoulder pads, reconditioning of whatever, and jersey replacement, because unlike many other sports, most oftentimes football jerseys end up getting holes, damaged, or whatever. Some end up missing, just like basketball and things of that nature. There is a cost. The other part that I want you to think about that has nothing to do with the sport is the transportation, right? So minimally, if it's 9.1 miles from here to Clyde Savannah, minimally, we're going to say 18 and a half miles a day at $3.50 a mile. $3.50 a mile is what we use for our estimate for transporting students daily. That covers our fuel, that covers our insurance, that covers the wear and tear on the bus. That does not cover the driver's salary. We'll get into that a little bit. But a program like football is typically 10 weeks long, and it's going to cost us minimally, if it was a 2-hour a day thing, 10 hours a week for the driver's salary. So I've given you the $350 a mile times 18 and a half, right there and back. That's a minimum of $323.75 for 5 days a week. As I said earlier, if we transport there on a Saturday or a Sunday for whatever reason, you add the, $64 on top of it. It just keeps the running total going. Minimally, it's $37.50 for transporting. And then if we were adding a driver's salary, rough estimate, minimal cost, 2 hours, $70 a day, it's minimally $350 for 5 days. That's $3,500 over 10 weeks. The combined total is $37.50. And then other factors that you have to think about: coaching salaries, cost per player, equipment reconditioning that I mentioned a minute ago, uniform replacement. Those are some of the factors that have not been spelled out in any combined teams because there has been no formal request. Everything to this point is informal. The other part that I want you to think about with respect to driver shortages and practice times, our school day at this high school will end at 2:25. Practice times most often are about 3:15 to 3:30 because in the fall, the sunlight, starts to dwindle. So they try to get practice in as quickly as possible. I don't have a driver available to send student athletes to another district because our elementary school dismisses at 3:34. So the time between high school dismissing at 2:25 and elementary dismissing at 3:34, those drivers are the same for the high school run as they are for the elementary run. I also want to point out, at this point in time, there is a great deal of financial uncertainty. From the federal level, the grant funding that we rely so heavily on is starting to dry up, and I'm not so sure that those grants are going to be available for us to apply for in the future. But one thing I do want to say is that regionalization is also a conversation that's going to force us to look at our programs. It's going to force us to look at our offerings, and it is going to force us to start prioritizing where we spend our money. And I think that that's a larger conversation than just this Board of Education. Thoughts? And if I went too fast and you want me to go back, please let me know.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pullen, for pulling this together. We asked for the data and how it would affect our district, and specifically what would be the legal ramifications that we would have to deal with and the fiscal responsibilities. I know I asked all of you board members to be thinking about it. I also know that while Mr. Pullen has given us quite a few difficulties to consider, I do know that Mr. Pullen is extremely pro football in his earlier days, having been a football player and coaching football. So I trust that it's the data that we've received is truly correct. It hasn't been made worse than it might be. As you've thought about it and you've heard this, what we do need to make a decision because we would need to start the formal process if we so choose. So the decision needs to be made. Is there anyone on the board who'd like to begin or give an opinion or
So at this time,
react to this?
So at this time, it's just been informal requests. We haven't heard anything from the superintendent of Clyde or the Board of Education of Clyde?
Currently, we have no dance partners.
Okay.
So when Mrs. Collier says, you know, this has got to be talked about, we have no partners right now. No one else has approached Mark formally. No one else has approached me formally. Last year, there was an informal inquiry from Mark, or to Mark rather. There has been no formal discussions, and none at my level.
So even if we said, let's do this, right now, we still don't know that Clyde is willing to do this.
Correct.
Okay.
If we were to do this, what's the length of process to get through all of this?
Well, the timeline, you know, Mark just had a Section 5 meeting today. So, I mean, they're already talking about winter combined sports, right? So, to me, I'll tell you from everything we do, you heard Megan say, this is what our PD plan is. Anything we've ever done with any combined team, any effort, it's about 18 months. That process, in my opinion, is tried and true because it gives you a chance to look at the financial implications. So last year, going through a budget deficit, having to trim $665,000 and not having a formal request and not having a formal need, we didn't consider anything right now but saving what we have and currently keeping everything intact. So it would not be this year. I would not propose that. I would not do that to the Board of Education because, again, we don't have a driver, we don't have practice schedule, and I don't know what the financial implications will be, and I have no dance partner. I don't know how else to put it. But I think that would be fiscally irresponsible for me to recommend to you because I just don't see that we have all of our ducks in a row.
But we do have interest, so this is something that we want to revisit and possibly go forward with at another time once we kind of see how financial things fall this year. I guess what's the question of if we say no today, is it a no forever or is it a we can look at this again?
Well, that's up to you to decide as a board. I think that the question that you're asking me is really symptomatic of the region. I talked about the regionalization plan and some of those types of things. I think we have to look at it from that scope and see, are we going to be a standalone program or are we going to merge, not just with one sport, but with several? Because at some point in time, we're going to have to tell people no, and that's not a swear word, it's just a reality. I've said this to Mark before. You know, we have students that are involved with club lacrosse. We have students that are involved with ice skating. You know, do we end up starting a hockey team? Do we start a lacrosse team? At some point in time, we have to maintain what we have, and we have to have some very difficult and challenging conversations. If you chose to charge me with looking at this long term, I could do that. I could say to you, yep, this is the process we're going to take. And I could say, here are the people that we've solicited, and these are the steps that we've taken. But I would also say to you, you have to have a willing participant on the other side of the table. And I can't say that for every time an interest comes forward, whether it's lacrosse, whether it's football, whether it's ice hockey. Like Mrs. Collier said, I love the game of football. There's no two ways about it. However, you're not asking me, Mike Pullen, as a player or as a coach. You're asking me as superintendent of schools, can we afford to do this right now? And my answer is, right now, I do not have enough information. Right now, we cannot afford to do this. And right now, I would say to you, it would be fiscally irresponsible to you and the taxpayers if I said, move forward. I cannot do that.
John?
I'd like to know if what percentage of our teams are full now? The current teams, the current boys soccer, girls soccer, on into the year. Are we filling our teams?
Do you have the numbers, Mark?
So practice starts Monday right now with registrations. Girls and boys soccer's the boys was 35-ish, 36, 9/12 girls was a little bit less, but still good numbers. Overall, I think the registrations are where we need them to be. The hard part is when Monday comes, it's different than maybe what someone put on paper. Or that number could go up or it could go down based on practice. So it's we've got a good idea where we are. It usually takes the first couple of days to really fish things out, what your roster's going to be for the season.
So our program is healthy then?
I would say we're healthy right now.
Do I have something more, John?
Yeah, I've always been concerned with classification of sports teams. I don't understand how they do it, or who they are. Do we always have to do what Section 5 wants us to do, or is there independent leagues as well? Are they the same classifications or different? And if you merge with another school, I think you mentioned it at the start of your talk, what are the ramifications of that? Do we go up so high that we're up against Canandaigua, let's say, or Victor? I'm exaggerating that, but sometimes it gets to the point where it gets ridiculous that you got so many students in your student body to play the sport against teams that aren't big. I just wondered what are the rules on that? Where would we fit?
Well, I think that's too early to say right now, but I do understand your point. I was actually a part of one of the very first sports mergers for football years ago. We did the process. We had it all spelled out. It quickly went sideways after it got started. We end up taking two very small schools, and we end up playing in a Class B classification. So annually, we'd field a team with 22, 23 guys. We were playing against teams in Class B that had, 30, 32 guys. So, where we were hoping for people to get out of games healthy, they had a next man up mentality, right? Because they have, 2 and 3 deep at positions at that level. And I think the part with sports is that, no one ever rallies around a social studies test. Right? No one's out there celebrating the U.S. history regents and the results of that. But when it comes to competition, people are very clear on where their points of pride lie. I think with this right here, it's important for us to remember to be objective, to think about it from a rational standpoint, think about sustainability, and think about fiscally what's our charge, right?
I had a Clyde. Do we know what size Clyde's program is? We don't have any of that
I
information.
believe they're probably Class D if it's still the same. Their Finger Lakes is the league, but their sectional classification would be Class D. So it's one of the smaller
The
ones.
smaller one. I
Yep.
figured, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
Tina?
Yeah. So if we were to commit to moving forward with something like this, how would we guarantee that we right now have 11 students and 2 continue, but we're still required to pay the same amount? How can we guarantee that we would be able to sustain something like this? I mean, we've talked to our own soccer teams, we're up and down all the time. How can we sustain, because I guess we'd be making a commitment to another district that we'd merge with, that we're going to continue that for a period of years. I know, that's part of the agreement.
Yep.
But I can't think they're going to just say, it's okay this year. And I mean, my understanding from this was that this was for at the modified level. We're talking Clyde. Are they?
I don't know that it's for modified. We haven't had a formal request.
Okay, that's right. But that was presented. But I understand that. I'm out of my league here.
Right.
Okay.
Potentially.
But my question is, how do we as a district commit to maintain that we'll continue doing this? That would be part of our obligation, is that right?
That's the financial piece that I talked about,
Okay.
right?
All right. I just wanted to be sure on that.
There's times where whatever you do, it's got to take time to study. It's going to take a
Right.
commitment regardless. The sustainability factor is, again, all about the intermunicipal agreement. Are you charging per player?
Okay.
Or are you charging a flat fee? One of the examples in section 5 where there was a combined team 10 years ago is no longer a combined team now. If you start to think back about some of these combined team efforts, we haven't even approached you on our winter combined teams because at this point in time, as of today, we do not have a combined team effort. There is no alpine ski combined team. We're not moving forward that because we don't have a person to participate, right? So again, legally, we would have to bring that to you. There would have to be a resolution. We would have to sign off on that. So as Mark goes through the process for winter sports, we do not have any combined teams here at North Rose-Wolcott heading into the 25-26 school year, right? And with respect to commitments, both boards of education would have to agree to that, and both boards of education would have to agree to either the severability of the intermunicipal agreement or the process in which we're going to get out of it as part of that legal agreement.
Now, there are other fall sports besides soccer. So what might this do to other fall sports if we introduce, I mean, soccer numbers are up, but there are, there's running sports, there's volleyball,
Yep.
there's other programs that we currently offer. Do we know how enrollment is on those, and would it help or hinder any of those programs?
Mark, do you know what the numbers are? So you talked about the sign up in the spring to who shows up Monday. You have full slate of offerings for volleyball, cross country, and soccer.
I mean, we're in good shape. Could we use more in some places? Sure. But I mean, we're healthy. I couldn't tell you what could happen if we all suddenly say we're going to add a sport in the mix of whatever season that's could potentially draw away from our established programs.
Yeah, it is hard to say, but just because we say now we offer football, it doesn't mean there will be no soccer, there will be no volleyball, there will be no cross country. We can't say that either. Okay.
Well, that's the financial side of it. Again, the other side is the code of conduct, the eligibility, the hiring of staff, the process to solicit volunteers. I mean, all those things in the intermunicipal agreement, I would say to you, you want to make sure you go through systematically and have all that spelled out, regardless of whether it's football or any other sport. If we did a combined team for golf, I would have the same expectation for us to follow the blueprint, to provide you with every question that we could possibly provide you answers to within that agreement.
Linda?
From what you presented tonight, too, it sounds like even if everything was go right now, it's an 18-month process before that can be accomplished?
For us, that's
Okay.
our internal controls, right? So
Okay.
for our internal controls, because I can't go out and predict what it is, the minimum for the bus driver, those are basic minimums. That would be like, hey, if we got everybody there 5 minutes before practice started and they left right on time, that never happens, right? So I get the bargaining agreement with the driver. I've got the unaidable mileage for transportation, and I've got a driver that doesn't exist committed to a run that we've never had. I just don't have that person. So for me to commit the district to that right now, I'm not only setting you up for failure, I'm setting our student athletes up for failure, and I'm saying something that I can't deliver.
Okay, thank you.
As I thought about it, and I've given some good hard thought, I'm concerned. I know when the parents spoke to us in July, they were February. They were willing to provide transportation themselves, and I can't support that. I can't support it because I think it puts our district in a very risky litigation position. that when parents send their kids to school, many drive them, and they take their parents and guardians, and they take responsibility. We don't take responsibility until the student arrives. But the rest of the kids who have to, for whatever reason, ride the bus, that's our responsibility then. And we're charged with keeping our students safe. So the possibility of a student who maybe doesn't have transportation, or parents will not supply that transportation to participate in a sport in another district, in my estimation, I cannot allow that child to ride with another parent. It's our responsibility. And our responsibility says that the child be in a vehicle that has school insurance, safety precautions. It's driven by a certified driver with the certification needed to drive a student. And I also think we need to supply that transportation for kids who don't have parents who can provide, because all kids need to have that opportunity to participate if they can. And I think should there be an accident, I think it opens up the district, if they're riding with someone else, into it puts the district in a terrible litigation risk problem. And I can't support not having our own transportation. And I think while these 11 students, parents might well take on their own kids' transportation, I think we need to think about the precedent that is being set for the future, and make sure that whatever is done now is done properly and with student safety and district protection in place. And so I'm not able to support this particular thing. I also think supporting something that we don't have, it's a different issue when we have a team and we don't have either enough kids to fill a team, or another district comes because they don't. I think when we start adding teams, as Mr. Pullen said, where does it stop? What about the hockey player? What about the gymnast? We can't supply everything for everybody. And I have no idea at this point whether or not the budget that we adopted, that was approved by the community, whether or not that can support the transportation and the rest of it, cost-wise. That would have to be developed entirely before we could commit, because we cannot overspend the budget. If I had my druthers, I would rather see us join with another school for team sports, and it be a solid thing. It might not be all sports, but a specific number of sports, and that it not be an issue of their kids and our kids. I recall another board member another time being worried about, well, if those kids come, if outside kids come on our team, and we already have enough, then my grandchild isn't going to get playing time. Those are worries, though, yours and mine. Combining as a whole eliminates that. I know it's been done in other districts, and I know that when North Rose Central School and Wolcott Central School joined together, those were issues that were a worrisome thing, and they disappeared when it became one new unit. So that's just a thought out there. But at this point, I personally can't support moving our kids, even if we had the drivers to transport them. We do need to come to a decision on whether to move on to the formal process or not. The formal approval process. And that would take a motion by someone, one way or the other, and then we vote, and it either gets passed or not. But we can certainly still talk about things yet, if you'd like to. If you have more you'd like to ask about, or that you're concerned about, or that you even want to state an opinion. That's.
Can we say anything?
No, we don't take, only during public access.
Now, this is just me being curious because I don't necessarily know all of the history and the way things go. Like we have, a booster, athletic boosters. Somebody maybe correct me, years ago, they tried to cut all the sports programs, and that's when we started a booster program to help reinstate
The
that.
booster
We
club.
increased it. Okay, thank you, the booster. Thank you for correcting me. It became more active. Is that something that can be done with, money given for a program?
We're still liable.
Okay, it's still liable for
We're
anything that
liable.
happens.
The boosters usually supply extra things now. They don't. And I wasn't on the board in those days, but I'm certain that whatever they paid for had to go through formal board approval so that it became a school function.
Okay.
It wasn't
was
a
just-
booster function. Linda?
My primary concern is the financial aspect, to be quite frank. In terms of just general across the board, we're already facing a lot of not really knowing what's going to be coming down the pike in the next few months. So that makes me very hesitant to even look into something that's going to be costing more.
Well, I think the other
That's
part.
my opinion of that.
Thank you. I think the other part for us is you have to do something tonight to give people a clear message one way or another. And then that doesn't mean we can't continue to research the regionalization efforts as to what that may look like, right? Like I honestly believe you can't send a mixed message. The public owes, we owe that to the public. We have to figure out like what is it you want to do right now. The funding piece, the number of discussions that we have, you have to take a stand and just say this is the direction you want me to go, and I'll go with it. But like I said a few minutes ago, financially, I can't in good conscience make this recommendation to you. It doesn't change my opinion of football one way or another. It's a great, fantastic game, teach a lot about life, but financially, from my seat right now, I can't move forward with it. You tell me what to do, though.
What about the cash offer
It's up to the board.
to fund it?
Doesn't sound like doing a formal inquiry or committee to it. Sounds like you're just.
We're not paying any attention.
Cost.
Travis?
I'd like to make the motion that at this time, we do not pursue anything for combined sports unless reached out to by another district. I'd love to make everybody happy and have the hockey team and have the flag football and have every sport that every kid wanted to play. Financially, we can't do it. So
your motion is
to
to,
put it to bed, we're not going to pursue any teams unless we can.
At all. Any sport at all, through any season.
Without a formal application, yeah, no. I think we, my motion is to say no to this at this time.
please be quiet. This is not your time to speak. Linda,
I second that motion.
you second. There's a motion on the floor that at this time, did you get that? All right.
So Travis made a motion
Travis.
that you will not entertain combined teams without a formal application process. So the process needs to be formalized through the proper channels.
We have a, was that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
As of right now, we've got requests from parents. And no other district to back those parents up that came to us or the superintendent. So really, there's nothing to consider at this point.
We're asking you to do the formal request to the school. They're not gonna ask us for.
Now, where there's a motion on the floor, is there any more discussion? Then I will say, first of all in favor? Please raise your hand. Hands down, all opposed? The motion is carried.
So the last thing you have for board discussion is the board vacancy. So there's a seat that's currently open, and the Board of Education has 90 days from the time the vacancy to make a decision, and there's a 3-part process in which you can fill that role. So I think that Mrs. Collier,
Yes, that's indeed we have.
you want that piece up there, just mentioned.
We will. I believe that the board has decided to fill the empty seat vacated by Shelley Cahoon. And as such, the board would like to appoint Casey Cahoon DeWispelier to fill her mother's vacant seat and complete her remaining year of her term, which ends at the end of this school year. That's not only a tribute to Shelley and the work she did, but also a tribute to her father, who was also a past board member, past board president, and very involved with school, who also recently passed. So at this time, I would like a motion, please, to appoint Casey Cahoon DeWispelier to fill the vacant seat on the board. All right, Travis, and a second, John. Is there any discussion? That is the motion. The motion is to appoint Casey Cahoon to Whispalier to fill the seat vacated by Shelley Cahoon for the year remaining in her term. The motion has been made and seconded. Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. Not for her term, for the remaining year, yes. At the end of the year, then that seat would be up for election, yes. Motion has been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor of appointing? Motion is carried. We will welcome Casey
Ms.
Cahoon to Whispalier
When would she
to the
take her
board.
office?
She's welcome as tomorrow.
Yeah.
She can come take it at any
She
time.
can, she doesn't have to be here.
Right, the board clerk can administer the oath at any time.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. That concludes the business. Is there any good news that we would like
It's on now.
to give? Any good news? Good news is we're getting ready for the school year, right?
Good news is, preseason for most of the sports start Monday, so there's going to be activity around the building, and that's always nice to see.
Yeah, good.
I know grounds and maintenance has been busy, so you can see a lot of their efforts in the schools. So that's going to be nice to have kids start with fresh painted walls and things like that. So that's great.
Absolutely.